Let's get across the latest business news now. Ross Greenwood, our business editor, with me. Ross, you've spoken with Alinta Energy's chief, Jeff Dimery. He really did set the cat among the pigeons yesterday with that call of a 35% increase in power bills next year. How did he come up with that number?
Well, this is the interesting part about this, because you can sort of tell in some ways what the future of electricity prices have been. Many of these companies do lock in their prices through the futures markets, and that gives you a sense as to where the markets will be in 12 months and also 2 years' time. And this is where he came up with this number from. Now, it certainly would have been a shock to many people. He did it deliberately to really, if you like, bell a cat for politicians and for the community. He says it's time that people really don't, sort of become, shall I say, just, not understanding electricity prices, and in particular that politicians don't get away with telling people that eventually energy prices are coming down. He says they're not, and it's because it's structural, because it's really baked in, and people have got to get used to it. Have a listen to what he had to say.
If you take all of the available information off, for instance, the future price of electricity, the price of network charges and the like, and we feed that through, it's a visible process, then that's what answer falls out the back end of that. So that's not a number that I've made up. That is a number that's put through a regulatory process to determine an outcome. In the case of Victoria, that number is 35%. In other states, the number is actually higher.
Now, Ross, is there anything the government can do about it?
Well, the government can do some things about it. Remember what he said there? 35% for Victoria. In other states, the price rises are going to be higher. That's the real shock. The second part about this is what he says that government can do. Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, they could go down the path of the British government, and that is they could start to subsidise people's prices. Now, the point is that with a budget coming up, and quite clearly a budget that Jim Chalmers today even says they're going to try and find cost savings. They're going to try and find ways to take pressure off the budget. Well, if they're going to start to subsidise people's energy bills because they can't afford them, then that is going to be a real cost. Now, in the UK, the latest move that they've made has cost £1.5 billion. You'd have to imagine here in Australia, the numbers wouldn't be dissimilar. So the second part about it, apart from doing that, is to allow more renewable projects to go ahead more rapidly. This is one of the reasons Jeff Dimery has spoken about this, largely because he says that the controls in trying to get new projects up and underway really mean that it's way too slow to replace the coal-fired power stations that are coming out of the system. And this is really the alarm that he's trying to send to government to try and speed up the urgency with which new projects are approved.
It's not the only wake-up call either today. The banking regulator says it's a matter of when, not if, an Optus-scale data breach hits one of our major financial institutions.
So imagine that, because, Kieran, the alarm and the emergency that the Optus data breach has sent through Australia's community and the way in which government is now being forced to respond. Well, imagine if one of these went through a bank. Now, this is coming out of Wayne Byres, who is the chair of APRA. He's about to leave that office, but not before he went to a House of Representatives Economics Committee today and really, again, set the cat amongst the pigeons by explaining that this is likely to happen to one of our big financial institutions.
And I think we would probably say that the financial institutions are, at least in a broader context, quite advanced. But what we do also know is that at some point, some sort of event will happen. It doesn't matter who what defences you've put in place. And so as much as we focus on the defences that are being built and making sure defences and controls are as robust as they can be, it's equally important to be investing in detection response capabilities so that you identify any breaches quickly, limit the damage and work out how you will respond as efficiently and as promptly as you can.
Yeah, so Kieran, that coming out of the banking and superannuation regulator today, and this is the reason again why government and every business has got to be right on top of this, but understand that the hackers also have got significant advancements that they're dealing with as well.
And finally, Ross, the dollar keeps falling. Where is it now?
62.6 US cents. So just having a look back at where it was when the Reserve Bank only Tuesday last week made its decision, the dollar was 63.54 US cents earlier today. It was up around about 68 US cents. So it's fallen almost 6 cents since the Reserve Bank decided to move interest rates up by 0.25%, not the 0.5% that was expected. You go back to the middle of August, the Australian dollar was above 70 US cents. So that shows you the strength of the US currency, determined to beat inflation, as compared with Australia, where we've taken a more gentle path on that fight.